My son wouldn't look me in the eye. He stood in the doorway of the living room, arms crossed, chin lifted like he was rehearsing a speech someone else wrote for him. My wife sat behind him on the couch, legs crossed, hands folded too neatly for a casual evening. A silence pressed against the walls, heavy and expectant. "Dad," he said, "you're embarrassing us. Move out in 30 days." I didn't react, not outwardly. Inside, something cold slid behind my ribs. My wife exhaled slowly, as if relieved he had spoken first. "My new boyfriend is very rich," she said. "He lives in a mansion. He'll take care of us." Her smile stretched too wide, practiced, almost rehearsed. And suddenly, the air shifted. The colors in the room sharpened. The ticking of the clock grew louder. A faint tremor in my son's hand told me everything. This wasn't his idea. He was repeating someone else's script, hers or his. They didn't know what I knew. They didn't know who I was, what I built, what I owned. They never bothered to ask. I watched them both wait, my son with forced confidence, my wife with a brittle sort of triumph. They believed they were casting me aside like an old coat. I simply nodded, a slow, measured nod. 30 days, I repeated. Their relief was immediate, almost sloppy. And as I walked out of the room, I could feel their victory warming them from behind. They celebrated too early, far too early, because the man they thought was just a warehouse worker, the man they thought they were evicting, controlled a $72 million empire from behind a deliberately boring desk. And now, their ignorance was a weapon I would use quietly. I closed the door behind me, and I smiled. A small, cold smile. The kind that says, "You just set your own house on fire." The betrayal didn't hit like a knife. It landed more like a realization, slow, icy, inevitable. My wife had been drifting for months, not away from me, away from effort, away from gratitude, away from the quiet life we'd chosen together. It began with late nights, then secret phone calls, then the sudden obsession with upgrading her life. My son followed her lead. He always did. He had her smile. He inherited her entitlement too. But I kept working, managing operations, overseeing logistics, signing contracts that moved millions beneath the surface. I drove home in an old truck, wore plain uniforms, ate at the same diner every morning. It was deliberate, camouflage. I wanted a simple home, a quiet life. She wanted a mansion. I should have seen it coming when she stopped asking about my day, when she stopped sitting close on the couch, when she stopped wearing her wedding ring inside the house, claiming it irritated her skin. I let it slide. I let everything slide. Until that night, that moment, those words, "Move out in 30 days." The sentence replayed in my head like a recorded confession, not loud, just persistent, like dripping water in a quiet room. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I studied them, their shifting eyes, their exaggerated confidence, and beneath it all, fear. Not of me, of losing what they thought they gained. I didn't know who the boyfriend was then, didn't know he was the one pushing this, didn't know they'd already packed some of my things. But betrayal has a scent, subtle, metallic, unmistakable, and it was everywhere. The next morning, I left for work earlier than usual, not to escape, to observe. Her car wasn't in the driveway when I returned that afternoon. My son's room was empty. The neighbors gave me those sympathetic looks people give when they sense trouble but don't want to be caught staring. I checked the phone bill. 200 messages to an unknown number. I checked the security cameras. Disabled 3 days earlier. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't ask questions. Instead, I made 3 calls. Not to friends, not to lawyers, to my 3 most reliable employees. Men who had signed NDAs thicker than novels. Men who knew exactly who I was behind the uniform. Find him, I said to the first. Name, job, assets. Confirm her activities, I told the second. Every location, every purchase. Prepare the paperwork, I told the third. Everything I'm entitled to and everything she isn't. Hours later, the information arrived in fragments, screenshots, photos, reports. Her boyfriend wasn't rich. He wasn't even stable. He lived in a rented house owned by his aunt. But he lied beautifully, and she wanted to believe him. Dreams are cheap. Delusion is expensive. Meanwhile, my company's accounts, quiet, hidden, protected, waited patiently for my next move. Her mistake wasn't cheating. It wasn't lying. It wasn't even the attempted eviction. Her mistake was assuming I was powerless. The final document arrived on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Her credit history, her debt, her unauthorized charges using my accounts. The boyfriend's criminal record, 2 fraud charges, 1 expunged. And the piece de resistance. She had already filed paperwork to remove me from the lease on a house I owned. The irony was almost graceful. I printed everything, placed it neatly in a folder. That evening, she walked in, hair curled, perfume heavy, eyes too bright. "Did you pack yet?" she asked lightly. "It's almost time." I handed her the folder. No words, just paper. She opened it, and her face crumpled, slowly, painfully, as each page peeled back another layer of the lie she'd wrapped herself in. This isn't... I stayed silent. Silence is a blade, and that night I let it cut. "I'm not moving out," I said simply. She blinked, still trembling. "You are." I slid the official eviction notice across the table. The same table she'd once said was too small for a rich family's home. It bore her name, her deadline, her signature, digitally captured when she filed the removal request. She had evicted herself. My son stepped out from behind her, confused, angry, scared. You can't do this," she whispered. "I already did," I said. No yelling, no insults, just truth, delivered cold. Her boyfriend didn't show up that night, or the next, or ever again. She left with 2 bags and a broken fantasy. My son went with her, loyal to the dream she had sold him. I didn't try to stop them. Some lessons require distance. Some require loss. The house felt quiet after they left, heavy but clean, like something had been surgically removed. I sat at the kitchen table, the eviction notice still lying there like a final confession. They thought they were trading up. They never realized they were walking away from everything. Not because I was wealthy, but because I was steady, loyal, patient enough to let them reveal who they truly were. In the end, I didn't lose a family. I lost 2 people who never knew me at all. And as I switched off the kitchen light, one thought settled into place. Sharp, calm, final. They wanted a mansion. They walked out of an empire instead.